My grandfather always told us to be out of the Nebraska cornfields before the sun touched the horizon, because the rustling between the stalks isn't always the wind. I realized he was right the night I heard my brother crying for help from the dark rows, while the real Leo was standing right next to me on the porch. When the thing in the corn finally stepped into the light, it wasn't looking for a place to hide. It was looking for an invitation. Story 3. The Mimic in the Corn. I grew up on a farm in rural Nebraska, where the closest neighbor was a 3-mile trek through towering walls of corn. In August 1998, the stalks were 10 feet high, creating a green maze that felt like its own world. My younger brother Leo and I used to play hide-and-seek in the rows, but our grandfather always told us to be out of the fields by the time the sun touched the horizon. He said that the Yenodlushi weren't just in the desert. They traveled where there was space to hide and voices to steal. One evening, Leo didn't come back to the porch when I whistled for him, even though I had been told never to whistle at night because it calls things that listen. I walked to the edge of the field and called his name, but the only reply was the dry rustle of corn leaves rubbing together. Then a voice came from deep within the stalks. It was Leo, crying for help, saying he had tripped and hurt his leg. I started to run toward the sound, but I stopped dead when I heard a second voice. It was also Leo, but this one was right behind me on the porch, asking me who I was talking to. I looked back at my brother standing in the doorway, then looked at the dark, swaying corn, where a hand, pale, long, and with too many knuckles, was slowly parting the stalks to reveal a face that looked exactly like his. If my brother was safe behind me, who was the boy in the corn trying to wave me over? The boy in the corn didn't move for a long time. He just stood there, half hidden by the leaves, mirroring Leo's exact posture. Even from 20 feet away, I could see that his eyes didn't catch the light of the porch lamp. They were just flat black holes in his head. I backed away slowly, my hand reaching for the porch railing. "Leo, go inside," I whispered to my real brother without taking my eyes off the thing in the field. "Why is he wearing my shirt?" Leo asked, his voice trembling. He was right. The creature was wearing a red striped t-shirt that was identical to the one Leo had on, but it looked brand new with no dirt or sweat, even though Leo had been playing in the mud all day. The thing in the corn began to move then, and it didn't walk like a kid. Its legs seemed to lock at the knees, and it levered itself forward in a stiff, jerky motion, like a puppet being handled by someone who didn't know how humans moved. It stopped at the very edge of the dirt yard. Its head swiveled toward me. Not a normal turn, but a smooth mechanical rotation that went too far for a human neck. It opened its mouth wide, and instead of a scream, I heard the sound of my grandfather's truck engine turning over. Then it shifted, and I heard my own voice from 5 minutes ago, calling, "Leo, come in for dinner." My grandfather came to the door then, carrying his old rifle. He didn't ask questions. He didn't shout. He just grabbed both of us by the collars and threw us inside, slamming the heavy wooden door and sliding the deadbolt. He spent the next hour marking the windowsills with a mixture of ash and herbs, his hands steady despite the scratching sounds that soon started on the roof. We lay on the floor of the living room, listening to heavy footsteps, pacing back and forth above our heads. It sounded like a very heavy man was walking up there, but the thuds were too rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Every so often, the thing would stop right above where we were sitting and make a sound like a dog panting, heavy, wet, and fast. The next morning, Grandfather found tracks in the soft mud around the porch. They looked like human footprints, but they were barefoot, and the toes were twice as long as they should have been. He made us pack our bags and drove us to our aunt's house in the city. He told us that once something like that sees your face and learns your name, it never stops practicing. Years later, after I became an adult, I returned to that farm to clear it out after my grandfather passed away. The fields were overgrown and the house was quiet. While I was packing boxes in the kitchen, I heard a knock at the back door. I looked through the glass and saw a man standing there. He looked exactly like my grandfather. Same overalls, same hat, same silver hair. "Mason, I forgot my keys," the man said. His voice was perfect. It was the exact rasp of my grandfather's voice. I almost reached for the lock, but then I looked down at the floor. The sun was streaming through the window, casting a long shadow of the man across the kitchen tiles. The man was standing perfectly still, but his shadow was reaching out, its long, distorted fingers already wrapping around my own reflection on the floor. I didn't open the door. I just watched as the man's face began to swivel, his skin rippling like water, waiting for me to make a mistake. I left the house that day and never went back. I heard later that the new owners moved out after only a week. They told the realtor that they kept seeing their own children standing in the corn at midnight, waving them into the fields with hands that had too many fingers. Can you hear that? Someone is outside your door right now, and they're calling your name in a voice you haven't heard since you were a child. If these stories left you checking your locks tonight, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new nightmare. For more bone-chilling encounters that defy explanation, click the next video on your screen right now.